The orbital station loomed like a monstrous, glittering chandelier over the red and gold swirls of gas giant 942K. Marcus Wren barely noticed. His boots scuffed the polished floor of docking bay 12 as he weaved through a press of travelers, merchants and soldiers, eyes locked on his comm tab, trying and failing to locate gate 7B. "This place is a nightmare," he muttered, sidestepping a bickering pair of insectoid traders dragging crates twice their size. His words vanished beneath the mechanical hum of transport loaders and the ever-present murmur of multiple species negotiating, complaining, or simply existing in the overcrowded station. Marcus wasn't even supposed to be here. Technically, he was on leave, 48 uninterrupted hours of peace after 6 months stationed on the Outer Rim. Somehow, that translated to running courier errands for his commanding officer while navigating a floating city designed by people who clearly hated straightforward signage. He adjusted the strap of his utility pack and shouldered past a cluster of tall, iridescent-skinned beings from the Zelthari Confederacy, their voices lilting like music. The moment his boot caught on a floor marker, he stumbled forward, instinctively reaching out to steady himself, and his hand brushed hers. It was an innocent thing, brief, accidental, the faintest graze of his fingers against the back of a slender, cool hand as he righted his balance. But the woman froze like he'd jammed her into an airlock and hit eject. She was tall, even by human standards, her build elegant but unmistakably strong beneath fitted, iridescent attire that shimmered faintly in the overhead lights. Her skin was smooth, pale with an almost silver undertone, and her long golden hair framed a face both striking and unfamiliar. But it was the ears that caught him off guard, long, tapering gracefully beyond her temples, the hallmark of the Livani species. The Livani, rumored to be reclusive, diplomatic, impossibly graceful, and apparently highly reactive to unsolicited hand contact. Sorry?" Marcus blurted, stepping back, hands raised like he was under arrest. Around them, the crowd ebbed and flowed, uncaring, but in his world, everything stopped. The woman stared at him, amber eyes wide. Then she leaned forward impossibly close. Her voice, when it came, was soft as static over comms, but perfectly clear. "You initiated the resonance," she whispered. Marcus blinked. His brain scrambled for context, failed, and landed squarely on panic. "I resonated?" She tilted her head slightly, studying him, the edges of her mouth curling faintly. Not quite a smile, not quite concern. "It worked," he muttered to himself, because his mind offered nothing better. His training hadn't covered resonance or what to do when a beautiful alien woman reacts like you just proposed marriage via accidental handholding. Livani culture, as far as he recalled, involved diplomacy, scientific advancement, and an almost obsessive adherence to ritual. He'd never heard of resonance, but judging by her expression, and the way nearby Livani now eyed them with poorly concealed interest, it wasn't minor. "Look," Marcus said, forcing an awkward grin. "Totally an accident. Human clumsiness, gravity fluctuations, poor footwear design, happens all the time." She said nothing. Her pupils contracted slightly, her gaze scanning his face with unnerving precision, as though reading a dossier printed on his forehead. Before he could dig the hole deeper, she extended her hand, the same hand he'd touched, fingers long and graceful, palm facing upward. "Liara Vare," she introduced, voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of something Marcus couldn't place. "Marcus Wren," he replied automatically, shaking her hand because, at this point, what was one more interspecies faux pas? The moment their hands met, a pulse of warmth traveled up his arm, subtle but undeniable. His eyes widened. "Okay, that's new," he muttered. She nodded, her expression unreadable. "You activated the neural link." "Neural link," Marcus echoed, instinctively patting his head as though expecting wires to sprout. How? I was just trying not to faceplant on the deck." Liara's lips twitched, the ghost of a smile. "In my culture, intentional contact initiates resonance, a neural connection. It's rare, difficult. You achieved it unintentionally." "Lucky me." The faintest amusement flickered across her face, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. A chime from Marcus's comm tab interrupted the moment. He checked the screen. Another message from Command, undoubtedly asking why he wasn't already at Gate 7B. Listen, Liara. It's been weird, but I really have to. You cannot leave, she interrupted softly. Marcus stiffened. Pardon. The resonance forms a temporary cognitive bond. It is not reversible by distance. He stared at her, then waved vaguely toward the teeming crowd. Okay, but surely there's some anti-resonance spray? Meditation? A technical support hotline? Her expression remained serenely serious. You initiated. I accepted. We are linked. Marcus exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the day settle like lead in his bones. So, what? I accidentally signed us up for intergalactic brain sharing? Her golden brows lifted faintly. Essentially. Perfect. He scrubbed a hand through his short dark hair, scanning the surrounding station like someone would pop out offering solutions, or at least a drink. Well, Liara Vare, welcome to the misadventures of Marcus Wren, he said dryly. We can start with you explaining how not to get me court-martialed for unauthorized telepathic bonding. She inclined her head gracefully. It would be my honor. And with that, she fell into step beside him, silent, composed, and radiating calm, while Marcus tried very hard not to hyperventilate over the fact that his accidental hand touch had just made his shore leave a lot more complicated. Marcus walked with military precision, shoulders squared, eyes forward, doing his best to ignore the unnerving sensation that Liara was practically reading his thoughts with every step. The Livani woman moved beside him like she belonged there, her stride smooth, her posture regal, and her impossibly long ears flicking slightly every time someone glanced in their direction, which was often. People are staring, Marcus muttered under his breath, tightening his grip on the utility pack slung across his chest. They're curious, Liara replied, her voice calm, with the faintest thread of amusement threading through her otherwise formal tone. Resonance is rare. Most have never seen a bonded pair in public. Bonded pair, Marcus echoed, grimacing as he sidestepped a merchant cart loaded with glowing blue fruit. You make it sound like we got married in a supply closet. Liara's expression remained unreadable, though her eyes glinted faintly. That would be highly irregular. Livani ceremonies require weeks of preparation. Marcus choked on a laugh, shaking his head. Good to know interspecies bureaucracy extends to awkward psychic connections too. They reached a transit terminal, its circular hub bustling with travelers and station personnel. Holo displays flickered with departure times in multiple languages. Marcus scanned the information, searching for Gate 7B while trying not to dwell on the fact that his brain might currently be syncing with an alien diplomat. His comm tab pinged again, this time a holo call from Sergeant Brax, his commanding officer, his square-jawed face materializing above the device. Wren, where the hell are you? Brax barked. His voice like gravel fed through a malfunctioning speaker. The ambassador's transport's docking in less than 15 minutes. You better be at that gate or... Sir, Marcus interrupted, lowering his voice and angling the device away from Liara. There's been a situation. Brax narrowed his eyes. What kind of situation? Station security? Worse, Marcus admitted. I accidentally initiated a neural resonance with a Livani. There was a beat of silence so heavy it could have snapped a bulkhead in half. You did what? Brax hissed, his image glitching faintly. Resonance? With a Livani? You touched one. It was an accident, Marcus insisted, glancing sideways at Liara, who waited patiently, hands clasped behind her back, the very picture of diplomatic composure. Tripped, made contact. She froze, whispered something about resonance, and now apparently we're mentally linked and violating like 7 treaties I've never heard of. Brax's expression darkened like a storm cloud ready to detonate. You'd better fix this before the ambassador arrives. The last thing we need is an interspecies incident on the station. You screw this up, Wren, and I'll have you scrubbing waste filtration systems for the next year. The holo call ended abruptly. Marcus sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. You ever feel like your entire career's hanging by a malfunctioning thread? All the time, Liara replied serenely. He blinked at her. Wait, was that a joke? Her expression remained placid, though her long ears twitched slightly. Humor is a valuable tool for easing stress. I've studied Terran sarcasm extensively. Oh, you're gonna love working with me then, Marcus muttered, gesturing toward the transit platform. Come on, we've got 10 minutes to convince my CO I didn't accidentally spark a galactic crisis. They boarded a hover tram, its sleek frame humming softly as it accelerated along the suspended track, weaving through the inner levels of the station. The panoramic windows revealed a sprawling city of artificial environments, markets, living quarters, corporate towers, all nestled within the curvature of the orbital ring. Liara stood beside him, unervingly quiet, her amber gaze tracking every detail, every person, like she was calculating odds Marcus couldn't begin to fathom. So, he ventured, this resonance thing? What's it actually doing? Am I going to start hearing your thoughts? Developing alien instincts? Growing, I don't know, extra ears? Unlikely, she replied, voice even. The resonance establishes a baseline neural connection. Our cognitive patterns adjust for compatibility. You may experience increased empathy, minor telepathic impressions, possibly subconscious emotional projection. Marcus's eyebrows climbed. Right? So, mild psychic side effects. Totally manageable. For now, Liara added, perfectly deadpan. The tram decelerated, gliding into the upper-tier docking sector. They disembarked into a high-security zone filled with uniformed officers and checkpoint scanners. Marcus flashed his credentials, the guards barely glancing his way, until they saw Liara. Instant tension crackled in the air. The Livani were rare here, rumored to be untouchable, dangerous, or both. She's with me, Marcus declared, waving his ID again with a confidence he absolutely did not feel. The guards exchanged looks but let them pass. You realize this whole situation is going to be classified as weirdest diplomatic accident in station history, right? Marcus muttered as they approached Gate 7B, where a sleek ambassadorial transport was just docking. Possibly, Liara agreed, her expression unreadable. However, I find the experience intriguing. Marcus snorted. Great. Glad one of us is enjoying the impending disaster. The transport hatch opened, and out stepped the Terran ambassador, a stern woman flanked by aides and security personnel. Her sharp gaze landed on Marcus, then shifted to Liara. Marcus braced himself. Here we go. Liara leaned closer, her voice low, teasing, breathe, Marcus Wren. You're quite flushed. He groaned softly. And I thought psychic connections were supposed to reduce stress. The ambassador's eyes narrowed with the kind of diplomatic sharpness that could cut through hull plating. Marcus straightened his posture out of instinct, ignoring the persistent sensation that Liara's gaze was practically dissecting his brainwaves beside him. He cleared his throat, mentally reviewing every regulation he vaguely remembered about interspecies incidents and how not to get court-martialed for spontaneous neurological entanglements. Lieutenant Wren, the ambassador began, her tone wrapped in silk but edged with steel. I trust your escort has an explanation. Marcus opened his mouth, only to realize he had no explanation, at least not one that sounded remotely professional. Liara, in contrast, stepped forward with flawless diplomatic grace. I am Liara Vare of the Livani Scientific Corps, she announced, voice calm, melodic, and carrying the faintest trace of superiority Marcus always associated with people far smarter than him. An unintended resonance occurred due to Lieutenant Wren's, shall we say, kinetic miscalculation. Kinetic miscalculation? Marcus repeated under his breath. I tripped. Liara's long ears twitched faintly, the closest thing to a smirk crossing her composed features. The ambassador regarded them both, her sharp eyes flicking between Marcus and Liara like she was recalculating every mission parameter. Behind her, security personnel watched warily, hands near their holstered plasma sidearms. A resonance? The ambassador repeated, one brow arching. You're telling me this human, this off-duty lieutenant, accidentally initiated one of the most sensitive neurological links in your species by stumbling? Statistically improbable, Liara admitted. But evidently, probability can be overridden by poor spatial awareness. Marcus made a face. In my defense, I was distracted by the station's terrible signage. The ambassador pressed her fingers to her temples, exhaling slowly. I should have stayed on Mars. Liara's eyes sparkled faintly. Regret is unproductive. Tell me about it, Marcus muttered, shifting his weight awkwardly as station personnel moved around them, clearly trying, and failing, not to eavesdrop. After a tense pause, the ambassador's demeanor shifted into something colder, more calculating. Fine. The Livani Council will need formal reports. So will our command. Until we sort this out, Lieutenant Wren, you're assigned to the diplomatic team. Marcus blinked. Wait. You're sticking me on a political assignment because I tripped? You initiated an interspecies neural resonance, she reminded him, each word heavy with implication. Congratulations. You're now a case study in cross-cultural accidents. Liara inclined her head. He shows potential. Thanks, Marcus replied dryly. Always wanted to be a neurological guinea pig. Before he could protest further, his ComTab buzzed with updated orders. Reassignment confirmed. Assigned to Diplomatic Corps. Duration, indefinite. I hate space stations, he muttered as Liara gracefully led him away from the docking sector. They moved through the station's upper levels, past panoramic observation decks showcasing the vast curve of the orbital ring and the endless swirl of the gas giant below. Holoscreens projected news updates, political briefings, trade agreements, distant skirmishes in the outer systems. Marcus barely registered them as they walked, still processing his new reality. So, how exactly does this resonance thing work long-term? He asked finally, shooting Liara a sideways glance. Are we talking mild headaches, occasional déjà vu, or spontaneous telepathy? None of the above, she replied smoothly. It is an adaptive connection. As proximity persists, cognitive alignment increases. Shared impressions, emotional projection. Over time, potential for accelerated neural comprehension. Marcus frowned. That sounds a lot like mind reading with extra steps. Liara considered this, her amber eyes reflective. More like an open channel. Thoughts remain private unless intentionally projected. Great, Marcus muttered. So I'll just keep my weird internal monologues to myself. Liara's ears twitched again, that almost smirk returning. Your weird internal monologues are already audible. He groaned softly, rubbing his temples. Fantastic. First leave I get in months, and now I'm psychically bonded to a brilliant, telepathic alien with unlimited access to my inner sarcasm. Unlimited is optimistic. They arrived at a high-level diplomatic lounge. Its sleek design filled with polished metal, translucent partitions, and quiet security personnel. Marcus followed Liara to a private alcove, where they were met by a slim Livani male in flowing attire, his expression severe. Liara Vare, the man greeted, eyes narrowing at Marcus. I received reports of an incident. Liara nodded. The human-initiated resonance. Marcus held up his hands. Still an accident. The male's gaze sharpened. Accidents imply chaos. The Livani do not tolerate chaos. Yeah, you're really gonna love my species, Marcus muttered. Liara interjected smoothly. The bond is established. Termination risks neural instability. Cooperation is preferable. The male exhaled, clearly displeased but constrained by protocol. After a tense exchange in their melodic language, he relented with a terse nod and left. Marcus slumped into a seat. I'd rate that meeting mildly terrifying. Liara seated herself beside him, composed as ever. Your humor is inefficient, but functional. He grinned faintly. That's basically how I live my life. They sat in companionable silence as the stars wheeled beyond the observation deck, the station's artificial gravity humming beneath them. Marcus exhaled, resigned. So bonded, huh? Guess I should get used to having an alien in my head. Liara's voice was quiet but firm. It may not be as terrible as you fear. Marcus chuckled softly. I'll hold you to that. Marcus wasn't sure what was more exhausting. The psychic bond, the political fallout, or trying to decipher Liara's expressions when she clearly found his confusion entertaining. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of briefings, awkward introductions, and enough strange protocols to make his head spin faster than a malfunctioning grav generator. It turned out the Livani had detailed regulations for every possible scenario, including accidental neurological entanglements with species who, as Liara delicately put it, lack the necessary spatial awareness. Marcus had lost count of how many times he heard the word resonance, thrown around by serious-faced diplomats who treated his accidental stumble like he triggered a galactic arms race. By the third debrief, he stopped resisting and started making sarcastic internal comments just to see if Liara could pick them up. Half the time, she only tilted her head, ears twitching faintly. A sign, Marcus suspected, that she was either amused or plotting his slow, dignified destruction. Remind me again, Marcus whispered as they were ushered into yet another secure conference room. How touching your hand basically signed me up for psychic boot camp? Liara didn't even glance his way. Physical contact triggers dormant neural pathways. Resonance links two minds in a controlled feedback loop, provided both parties possess compatible cognitive frequencies. Marcus squinted at her. Right? Translation for us simple Terrans. You tripped. Now we're neurologically entangled. See? Much simpler. Inside, representatives from both the Terran Alliance and Livani Council sat in sleek, metallic chairs arranged in a sterile circle. A large hollow display projected diagrams of brain scans, neural resonance patterns, and approximately 9 different terrifying flowcharts Marcus had no intention of understanding. A Livani elder with silver-streaked hair and impossibly sharp eyes addressed them. The resonance is stable. Dissolution is ill-advised. Premature severance risks cognitive fragmentation. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. Cognitive fragmentation? That sounds unpleasant. Liara, ever composed, elaborated. Psychic dissonance, memory degradation, potential personality destabilization. Marcus leaned in slightly. So, I'll either forget my name or start believing I'm a space llama. Excellent. Despite the tension, he caught the faintest flicker of amusement in Liara's eyes. Small victories, he told himself. The elder continued, outlining protocols and joint monitoring arrangements. Marcus barely followed half of it, his attention drifting to the low hum of the station's infrastructure and the distant shimmer of starships docking along the outer rings. When the meeting adjourned, Liara led him through a quieter section of the station, high windows revealing the swirling clouds of the gas giant below. Marcus exhaled, loosening his uniform collar. Do all Livani negotiations feel like getting lectured by an AI with a superiority complex? He asked. Liara's tone remained smooth, but her words carried a teasing undertone. The AI would likely be less patient. They reached a secluded observation deck, the silence broken only by the distant hum of station systems. Marcus leaned against the transparent barrier, watching plasma freighters maneuver between docking ports like fireflies against the planet's massive silhouette. So, Marcus ventured, what happens now? We just wander around psychically tethered until one of us has an existential crisis. Liara stood beside him, her posture straight, golden hair reflecting faint station lights. The bond stabilizes over time. Emotional interference diminishes. Cognitive overlap becomes predictable. Marcus grinned faintly. You say that like you've done this before. Her long ears twitched. Resonance among my people is rare, especially with non-Livani. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to process the absurdity of his life. Figures. First time I connect with someone in months, and it's because I nearly faceplanted into an intergalactic diplomat. Liara's lips curved ever so slightly. Your clumsiness has far-reaching consequences. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the void stretch endlessly beyond the glass. Despite everything, The tension, the politics, the strange telepathic connection. Marcus couldn't deny a peculiar sense of calm settling over him. "So, can you hear me now?" he asked, half joking, projecting the thought toward her. Liara's gaze remained on the stars, but her voice echoed softly in his mind, like a whisper carried through static. "I always hear you, Marcus Wren," he groaned, laughing under his breath. "Great. Guess privacy's officially extinct." Their shared amusement settled between them, quiet but genuine, as the orbital station drifted onward, suspended in the endless dance of stars and gravity. Marcus stood at the edge of the docking platform, staring at the sleek Livani transport hovering silently beyond the atmospheric shield. His reflection wavered faintly on the polished floor, and for once, it wasn't nerves or impending disaster making his stomach twist. It was the looming farewell. The last week had been a ridiculous spiral of diplomatic chaos, psychic awkwardness, and more brain scans than any reasonable human should endure. But somehow they'd pulled it off. The Terran Alliance and the Livani Council signed off on the Resonance Accord this morning. No galactic wars, no memory fragmentation, just a bizarre, unprecedented neural bond that was now officially legal. Liara adjusted the strap of her silver utility pack, her long ears angled forward in quiet focus. "You're thinking too loudly," she observed without turning. Marcus grinned faintly. "You know, some people pay extra for telepathic relationship analysis." She faced him, expression as unreadable as ever, though he'd learned to spot the subtle warmth in her eyes. "I will miss your inefficient humor." "You mean charming, universal, wildly underrated humor." Liara didn't argue, which was practically a confession by Livani standards. The station's intercom chimed, announcing final boarding for outbound diplomatic envoys. Marcus's chest tightened, the weight of unspoken words lingering like static in the air. "You're really going?" he asked, forcing a lopsided smile. "No last-minute station policy about keeping your human brain bond partner around for emergencies?" Liara's voice softened, her usual precise cadence tinged with something harder to define. "Our connection remains. Distance alters physical proximity, not cognitive resonance." Marcus folded his arms. "You're saying I'll still hear your voice in my head at 3 a.m.? "If necessary," she replied smoothly, but her eyes betrayed the faintest hint of mischief. The last week had changed him. He hadn't noticed it at first, too busy dodging bureaucrats and neural tests. But now, standing here, the reckless soldier who stumbled into an alien bond felt distant. A younger, dumber version of himself. He wasn't just coasting on sarcasm and instinct anymore. He'd learned patience, awareness, the value of shutting up long enough to hear someone else's thoughts. Literally. "You know," Marcus added after a pause, "I was never good at goodbyes. Usually just fake a technical malfunction and run." Liara stepped closer, the hum of the transport engines casting faint ripples across the floor. "This is not farewell." His pulse quickened at the certainty in her tone. "You're sure?" She reached out, palm up, replicating the gesture that had started everything. Marcus took her hand without hesitation, the faint buzz of neural resonance igniting along his skin. Familiar now, comforting, even. "I initiated resonance to understand your species," Liara said, her fingers tightening slightly. "I remain curious." His grin returned, crooked but genuine. "Well, lucky for you, humans are a lifetime subscription to chaos." Their linked hands pulsed faintly, the resonance stabilizing, weaving unseen threads across the space between them. The transport's boarding lights flashed, signaling final call. Liara released his hand, stepping toward the ship but pausing at the threshold. "When the Council approves the next phase of research, I will return." Marcus mock saluted. "I'll be here, probably tripping over something important." Her lips curved faintly, a real smile this time. Then she was gone, disappearing into the ship's interior as the hatch sealed behind her. Marcus stood there long after the transport drifted into the void, the swirling gas giant casting golden light across the observation deck. In the quiet that followed, her voice echoed in his thoughts, soft but undeniable. "Remember, Marcus Wren, I always hear you." He laughed under his breath, shaking his head as he turned back toward the station. For once, the chaos didn't bother him. The universe was big, unpredictable, and thoroughly insane, but it had a funny way of connecting the most unexpected people. And Marcus was finally ready for whatever came next.